So, what I can tell you about Mark Joyner is that he is a best-selling author. I've read most of his books. One of my favorites is Simpleology, but of course everyone's favorite is Mind Control Marketing. I'm going to tell you how I ran into Mark and how I think the reason that he's actually here. So, Mark has Simpleology, which was actually a course before it was a book.
That's right.
So when he was about to launch 103, he put out a simple report about a white powder or a white pill that you could take. And what Mark doesn't know is that I was huge, very much overweight because I'd been in a wheelchair for about 90 days. So when I got out of the wheelchair, I was still very much overweight, so it really never went away. It just kind of hung. So Mark sends out this report, and I said, you know what, I'm frustrated. I want to get healthy. So I started taking this pill, and I lost 25 pounds in a period of 60 days. It was not what Mark said it would do. It was more than that. So Mark saw a blog post. He must have had a Google alert or something, and Mark's like, dude, you should become an affiliate for Simpleology. So Simpleology has been in my autoresponder ever since, which is roughly 2 years ago. It was one of the first affiliate programs I ever promoted. And Mark, you changed my life. Then I started really following you. So I appreciate what you did for me, and I know you're going to be able to change the lives of the people here. So I'm going to ask you my one question and get out of the way. What I want to know from you, Mark, is what you see as the coming changes for internet marketing, being that you've been around since the beginning, changed the way that it's going. I know you've got your new internet marketing book coming, your course that you've got out. I bought Traffic Fusion and have that. So however you want to take this, wherever you want to go with it, that is my question to you. Where is internet marketing going in the future?
Well, first, thanks for sharing that story, and I'm pretty blown away by what you did, Ross, and thank you for giving me credit for that, but really I can't take any credit. I mean, you did all that yourself, you know, and hats off to you. If I could facilitate that process for you in any way, I'm really happy that we could have that influence. But, you know, it's all got to come from inside yourself. There's nothing outside that's really going to do it for you. So you did that, and give yourself credit for that. That's pretty amazing what you did, and I think you need to get that story out more because there are people out there who can hear that and be inspired by it. Thank you. Alicia, who you guys just saw, is dropping me off some water before she takes off. So as for your question, Ross, what I would say, the direction that things are going, somebody's telling me, Mark, turn. Is that what you mean? Like that? Like turn off, turn down the sound. I don't know what you guys want me to turn off, guys. Ross, why don't you, here Alicia is going to come over here and give me some help here. They need to turn down their speakers. Your mic is hot. Okay. So it sounds like our input sound is a little too high. If there is an input setting that we can have. Let's try the low volume and setting and see what that does. Oh, that's just what's coming through. Hey guys, is that any better? Echo, yes, that is better. Yes. That guys, too low, so a little higher. Testing 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. That's perfect. Okay,
Perfect.
Alicia, you're all over it. Thank you.
All right, and guys, if you're hearing an echo outside of me talking through Mark's microphone, you may have two windows open. That the only way to fix it is to close one. So now I'm leaving again. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, guys, and thank you for. Somebody says too low now, can't hear. Is that anyone else? Can anyone else not hear me? Okay, I just want to make sure before I start yapping away, it's just fine. Okay, so if you can't hear me, it sounds like one guy there. Maybe you need to turn up your speakers. Sounds like everyone else can hear me. So, guys, while I answer, I can't focus on that now, so we're just going to roll. So, to answer Ross's question, where is all this going? Well, here's the thing, okay, what I think is really important about this is that the internet, like any technology, if you've read a book I wrote that was never in print, it's something that I only released in electronic form called The Rise of the Author, which I think is frankly probably the most important thing I've written yet. I talk about the decentralizing or centralizing impact of technology. And technology, depending on what kind of impact it has on the world and how it either allows a small number of people to have power or to allow the power to be distributed out to people, that will be a centralizing or decentralizing effect. Okay, so to give you an example, a lot of people don't know this about the history of radio, but when radio first came out, it was almost like a little mini internet. It was totally deregulated at the time, and everyone had the ability to create a radio station. And the government then came in the United States and said, hey, we've got to control this. And then you had to start paying licenses, and there was a lot of special equipment that you had to get. So it was centralizing power. Now the power of the ability to communicate to people, which is, by the way, is one of the most tremendous sources of power in the world, is the ability to get your message out there, because you can control reality and influence the behavior of people. The technology of radio was a decentralizing technology, and it became a centralizing technology. Now the internet can have that same influence. Right now it is relatively deregulated, and it is totally decentralizing the power of communication. And this is terrifying to a lot of people. Okay, now I don't think we should run around and be fearful of this, right? I think at the end of the day, hey, yes, there are people who are going to abuse this technology for one purpose or the other, okay? But cars can be used to either run someone over or drive that same person to the hospital, okay? Because the car can be used to run someone over. Should we outlaw cars? No, right? So obviously there are certain finer points here that need to be discussed, but I think that the more deregulated and the more decentralizing the internet is and remains to be, the better, more positive impact it's going to have on people. So I see lots of comments here. Well, think this through, guys, okay? If the internet is regulated, okay, if the internet is regulated and you are no longer allowed to, at such a low cost and with such ease, get your message out to so many people, it is going to be easier for smaller groups of people whose aims are self-interested, okay? All of our aims are self-interested. If it no longer has that democratizing or decentralizing effect, it is going to be easy in the future for small groups with their small group interests to use that communication for their own ends. Okay, so now you guys think that this may not have anything to do with marketing, but it has everything to do with marketing, all right? Because your ability to market on the internet is dependent on the current state of decentralization, of deregulation of the internet right now. So this is actually extremely important for internet marketing. So where is it going to go? See, I don't know, because the government actually has the power right now to begin to centralize the control of the internet. So I issued a challenge out to people in the book The Rise of the Author that said, look, someone really smart out there needs to actualize a conceptual invention of mine, which is an unbindable, unblockable internet. Okay, so that means we want to have an internet that it is unblockable by anyone. Okay, so even if the government or whatever group wanted to control access to information, they couldn't because of this technology. Unbindable, unblockable internet. Okay, and you guys can read The Rise of the Author. It's a free download to learn more about that idea. And I talk about the idea of technology binds in there. Okay, so I'm hoping that if someone listening here can figure out how to do that technologically, if you are a smart enough engineer or you know an engineer smart enough, if you can get that information out there, that will be the ultimate single most important invention possibly in the history of mankind. Okay, because it will prevent centralized groups from taking control and leveraging their agenda on the rest of us, okay? Because we want this to be fair for everyone, and we want to allow democracy to thrive. And an open form of communication where everyone can communicate on a more or less equal playing field, I think is absolutely essential. Because without that, we don't really have true democracy. Because you can put a message out in a centralized communication medium, and that message can be anything that you want. If there is a narrow set of information that people are using to make their decisions, they aren't really making free decisions. Okay, so this is absolutely essential for the future of the democracy that we love so much, and of your ability to market on the internet. So Ross, I'm not sure if that was where you wanted me to go with that, but there's your answer. Ross, if does that satisfy your question? Okay, well, Larry and Willa at least are happy with the answer. Here we go. Of course, so Wayne Buchanan is saying, of course, the challenge is to develop that technology such that the unbindability is a side effect on something that has a much greater good. Otherwise, it'll just be regulated and controlled again. Wayne, you're absolutely right. And possibly this communication technology can ride along many different devices so that the device itself cannot be blocked, because if it's a device, a single device, then people can find the existence of that device and take that away from you. So it needs to be something that probably lives along with a lot of other things. How this would work, I don't know. So again, this is a new concept of mine I've been playing with called technology binds, and a technology can be bound to one particular thing in the physical world, and if you can control that thing to which the technology is bound, then you control the technology and control the people that are dependent upon that technology. So again, we need to have an unbindable, unblockable internet that everyone has access to, and that no one can come in and regulate. Now it's a really radical idea, but it's something I believe very, very strongly in. Okay, who owns the internet now? Leanne, that's a great question. Who owns it? Well, right now, it's owned by the people who own the actual lines across which the communication is occurring. Okay, now a lot of people don't realize that there are some central hubs that are very easy to tap into. So if somebody is wanted to control the internet right now, or regulate communication on the internet, it is totally possible, because there are binds. The binds are the lines across which the communication is occurring, and again, there are many centralized hubs through which that is happening. Okay, so now, while that's still relatively unregulated, it's owned by you, which is a really cool thing. So your ability to get your message out there, that gives you more ownership of what's going on. Now that's in its current state, its current relatively unregulated state. Okay, but China and Korea, the government provides the access and thus filters it. ECS Dave, you are absolutely right. Not South Korea, by the way. We're talking about North Korea. Now I know a certain amount about that, having spied on the North Koreans for many years in the U.S. Army. South Korean economy, in terms of the internet, is almost completely unregulated. In fact, they have the highest per capita usage of the internet there in South Korea. In North Korea, it's totally blocked. In Burma, totally blocked. China, totally blocked. Now, when I say that, I mean they are preventing people from getting access to certain websites based on their own individual political agendas. Now, that's a scary thing. That's a totally scary thing. That's something that those of us in the West don't believe in. But here's the thing, okay? I want to present a pretty radical idea out to you guys. There are some that say that while communication is centralized, we don't really have democracy. We have pseudo-democracy because some people, again, believe that the mainstream media is presenting a certain view of reality out there. Now, this is, make of this as you will. This is a matter of opinion. But if the mainstream media is presenting one version of reality, you are going to be basing your decisions on that. So the internet is just now starting to impact that. It hasn't had anywhere near the full impact that it can have. Because as people start watching the centralized sources of news less and less, and then the decentralized sources of news like blogs and whatnot more and more and more, and they get access to more of these different sources, we're going to have a truer and truer democracy at that point. Okay, so James Capulet said CNN News is completely different from what you would find on BBC. Totally true. Totally true. And being here in New Zealand, I can be exposed to that. If you go even further, if you go over to Malaysia, you're going to get a completely different view of reality, even from what you're getting in Great Britain or New Zealand. So everywhere you go, and who knows how much that's the individual political agendas of whoever owns those different mainstream news sources in each of those different regions. That's a matter of opinion, right? And I can't say anything about that because it starts to get off into paranoia land. Mark Hamp said, love the current openness of Twitter. Yeah, Twitter's pretty amazing, right? I'm kind of addicted to Twitter right now. I absolutely love it. And Joel Comm is on here right now. Joel Comm just put out a really cool service on Twitter. I'll give you guys a little URL to check out. This is a little plug for what Joel's doing. I just typed it in the chat, twitpower.com, twitpwr.com. Really interesting way for you to get some viral marketing leverage from your Twitter posts. Interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. I've got some opinions that I gave Joel on what he needs to do to boost that up even more, but Joel's always doing really innovative, cool stuff. So great stuff, dude. I didn't scare Joel away with all my crazy talk about the media. Let's say newspapers are stuck using an old model, Don Morris says. Don, you're totally right. Back in the old days when it cost money, the newspaper technology there was in the hands of people who had three things. They had the knowledge, the will, and the means, meaning the money, to actually use that technology. All right. In the knowledge, the will, and the means are in a very small number of hands with print news media. Right now, the knowledge and the will and the means are getting more and more decentralized, even with print media. But it pales in comparison to what we can do with electronic media over the internet now, because the knowledge, the will, and the means are in way more hands via the internet, which I think is a fantastic thing. Crystal Thomas says most get news from drudgereport.com. Is that true? Maybe. I think Drudge Report puts a lot of news sources together, perhaps for to further what Drudge wants people to be exposed to. I don't know enough about him to really say. I can't say any more to it than that. But it's very interesting what he's doing, isn't it? Judy Jenkins says Rupert Murdoch actually changed his nationality to get more power. I can't comment on that. I don't know what's going on inside Rupert Murdoch's mind, so I can't say. Let's see. Wayne Buchanan says, MJ, while I'm working on the unbindable net, what do you suggest as an actionable step for promoting the constructs as the unmasked media represented here? Well, thank you for asking that, Wayne. I've actually got some stuff in the works here very soon. that will allow you to do that, and hopefully you should be seeing that within the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be making some pretty radical moves that are completely unexpected from what those who have followed me in the past. Codename Neuro is really, really super cool, but it's only a tiny fraction of what we've got planned coming up here, and I'm just super excited about it because we're finally doing the stuff that I really, really want to do, because the stuff that I have been doing pales in comparison to what I'm going to be doing in 2009. So thank you for asking that, Wayne. I really appreciate that and giving me a chance to address that. Peter Banks says there's no such thing as unbiased news. Peter, you're totally right. Is there such a thing as objective reality? But one thing we do know is that if you have access to more opinions, you can get a broader, less biased view. So you make a wonderful observation there, and it's a philosophical point that we should address. So Don Morris says, Wayne, you should JV with me. I'm going to launch the Unbindable Internet 1.0 on Monday. Don, if that's true, I'd love to see it. I'll be the first one to promote the heck out of you, because I would very much like to see that technology out there. Although it's as far as I know, it's possibly beyond our command of physics at this point. But I'm genuinely hopeful that we can actually do it. I've had a lot of people come to me and say, hey, I can do it, and I keep saying, well, do it. I can't think of any more important thing that you could be doing right now than creating an unbindable, unblockable internet. Okay, so again, read The Rise of the Author if that's interesting to you. Chris Kutzel says, as a mentor to most of us, who are your mentors? Well, one of my early mentors was a pretty radical guy who I read when I was super young, who ended up becoming a friend of mine later on in my life. His name was Robert Anton Wilson. And still very, very sad to have seen him gone. He is a guy who popularized a lot of interesting ideas that are sort of a little more mainstream now, such as the concepts of general semantics and things like that. Technology that allows you to understand the nature of language and how it can control your perception of reality and how important that is in how you want to live your life. Wayne, exactly, or Korzybski wrote a wonderful book called Science and Sanity that I was introduced to through Robert Anton Wilson. That had a huge, huge impact on my life. Thank you, Don Morris, for the link to Rise of the Author. Look at some more questions here. Okay, frames. Daniel, frames are very, very powerful concept. It's the frame through which you see reality, and it has a huge impact on how you perceive reality. So, yeah, really cool stuff. If you guys don't know about that, Google the concept of framing. And in the Simpleology book, I talk a little bit about that as well. So that's kind of like the yin to the mind control marketing yang, because it shows you how to use all of those ideas rather than to control people, to sort of understand how you're being controlled and how to get more control over your own life and yourself, and how to better manage how you're perceiving reality. So Martinez says, what are you launching now? I got your blog post about something new. .name. I'm typing this in here. Yes, I'm teasing you very deliberately. I don't want to tell anyone until the launch day, but it's called Codename Neuro for now. And it's something that I've had in mind to do for about 20 years. We've been developing it for 2 years. Anyway, I just want you guys to check it out. I think it's going to be really, really cool out a lot, because I think it's going to do something for people that's extremely important to do. And Codename Neuro gives you some notions on what that might be. So sorry for the tease, guys. There's my my marketing efforts for the day to get you fired up about that. But I think you will. Zick Licati says, have you heard that Obama can't be president because he wasn't born there? who's saying that, right? Is that somebody with a certain political agenda that's saying that? I don't know. Yeah, Chris Enders says no politics, please. Yeah, please, let's not get into specific politics. I'm not going to say anything one way or the other about my particular political leanings, but something interesting to observe from a marketing perspective, whether or not you're for or against Obama's policies, it's certainly fascinating to see how seems to have regained a certain amount of trust from people in other parts of the world. When I was in Malaysia and in Indonesia, their government as a result. Is that trust misplaced? That's not for me to judge. It's just a marketing somebody says, are you kidding? No, I mean, that's what I've observed. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. So anyway, again, not to make any statement about that one way or the other. Okay, anyway, guys, let's not discuss George Bush. Why is this a marketing observation? Great question, Peter. Well, I'll ask you guys, how is marketing similar to politics? Tell me, how is marketing? And I ask Peter specifically, how is marketing related to politics? Larry says persuasion. Don Moore says, you have liars in both. Probably. Everyone lies, guys. It's human condition. it's just the reality of things. Alan Bechtold says you sell a candidate. Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, the same kind of thinking that you have to sell a product is the same type of thinking you would have to sell a political candidate. So it's extremely relevant for marketing. Absolutely relevant. Peter, I hope that answers your question. Peter says, because politics isn't about truth, marketing is about persuasion. Peter, well, yeah, what is truth, right? Is there a universal truth? Is there an objective reality? I don't know. I don't know. But what I do know for a fact is that, Dan Blackburn says, truth is what you believe. It's a great way of saying it. Whether or not there is an objective reality is not something that we as human beings probably have the ability to know. But what we do know is that we certainly can impact the way that people perceive reality and thus influence their behavior. Now that can be used for you to influence people for your own objectives, and it can also be used by you as an individual to influence what control you have over your own life. Okay, so Peter, I hope that answers your question. We've got some great discussion going on here. Next question, guys. What areas of marketing is the next growth area? Mark, well, what I would say is that the growth areas are the ones that are going to be determined by two things. Okay, by the areas that individuals create through their own efforts to be perceived as growth areas, which can in fact be done, and by the genuine needs and wants of people. Now those needs and wants, we have to distinguish between those things, right? Because what you want and what you quote unquote need are not necessarily the same thing, are they? So, if there is a common problem that arises through some event or some change in technology or in the world, that's a growth area, right? Especially if that problem is one that is going to be more and more pervasive for people. Now, the wants of people is something that can in fact be influenced and changed by your actions as a marketer. So what are those growth areas? Whatever things address those two criteria, and I don't want to say any one specific area right now because the world is becoming so big that it almost doesn't matter. You can dominate a quote-unquote small area and have tremendous success in business as a result of that. So just some general things. Anything that makes communication easier is going to be a growth area. Anything that makes your life easier is going to be a growth area. Anything that speeds anything up, anything that makes something that was big smaller is going to be a growth area. I hope that gives you a broad enough topic, and as you can see, I'm avoiding saying anything specific here because I want to stimulate your own thinking so that you can find those growth areas yourself. Wayne Buchanan says, MJ, what have you observed as the biggest stumbling blocks in helping people change? What is both personal development and marketing? Well, I would say the biggest stumbling block that everyone has is their own mind. I mean, you can take this a number of ways, and you can interpret that a number of different ways. But if you believe that you can't do something, well, you're simply going to limit the choices that you have in your life as a result of that. If you believe that the woman that you find attractive is unattainable to you, then your actions are going to be determined by that particular belief of yours. If you believe that something is possible, then you're going to start looking for possibilities that wouldn't otherwise be open to you. So what I would say is this. We don't know what's possible and what's impossible. Some people will tell you that's impossible. Well, guess what? They don't know that. That's influence, and for whatever reason, they're trying to sell you on impossibility because they have no better way of knowing what's possible or impossible than you do. But they will tell you that, hey, that's impossible, or that's, or that particular thing is possible. We don't know. But what we do know for a fact is that, again, if you believe something is impossible, it's not going to happen, probably, right? If you believe that it's possible, maybe you're going to open up some doorways to things that you hadn't considered before. And sometimes those things are extremely surprising. Yesterday in the newspaper here in little old New Zealand, we have a guy in Christchurch who has developed what may possibly be the first commercial jetpack. Did you think you'd see that in your lifetime? I don't know. Maybe this thing needs to be improved, but just letting you imagine, the possibilities there. There's a woman in Great Britain who was just given a bionic arm. A bionic arm. Now, I remember when I was watching The $6 Million Man when I was a kid, that was all, fantastic sci-fi to me. It's becoming reality now. So, somebody may have thought about that. Ooh, bionic arms, I want to make one of those. And then they met someone who said, no, that's not possible. That's stupid. It's foolish. Don't think of that. Don't think of such things. It's a waste of time. Well, if that person had believed that, the person who developed that technology had believed those types of voices, which I'm sure they heard when they were young, it would have precluded them from doing something extremely significant and world-changing. So think about that in relationship to your own life. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And who are you going to let determine for you what's possible and what's not? That's the biggest stumbling block from what I can see. Okay, we've got so many questions here, guys. ECS Dave says, I hope not to see transporter technology a la Star Trek. Yeah, who knows whether or not it's a murdering clone machine, right? Okay, you're welcome, Wayne. Great questions, as always. Mark, what do you think about Stuart Goldsmith's Inner Circle teachings? They have some pretty wild concepts. Daniel, I'm not familiar with Stuart's stuff, so maybe I'll check it out now that you recommend it. Sorry that I can't comment on that more. Okay, let's see. A lady in California wants a bionic eye to replace one she lost in an accident. Why not? Why not? If I lost an eye in an accident, I would certainly want a bionic eye. Chris Ender says, print up your own army with a transporter. Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Hadn't thought of that. Any other questions, guys? Are you big on mind mapping, and how do you set up your average day in terms of your brain, being, and body goals? Chris, I personally don't use mind mapping. I don't find it very practical for myself. I sometimes use it for note taking, but for me personally, I like to use just a very linear, hierarchically structured form of note taking. That seems to work well for my brain. In terms of organizing my day, well, I use Simpleology. If you go to simpleology.com, that's the stuff that Ross was talking about there. We have software that will allow you to organize your day in a particular way, and I think Ross may have a link there for you about that. Anyway, it's a process that allows you to sort of organize your day and cut through things that aren't important. Because if you look at a to-do list, it's actually a very, very unhealthy thing, and it loads your mind up with a lot of junk. And that's it's something that is a very big problem for us right now, because we're bombarded by information, and the Simpleology software is a particular approach to answering that particular problem. So anyway, you really need to go through Simpleology 101 and go through that training to understand fully the methodology that we've developed there. But there's a little bit of it. Peter Banks says, isn't this the whole point? We were able to cut through the crap. We're all talking throughout the globe. It's interesting, right? Yeah. So while technology is decentralized, there is, thank you, Ross, there's the link for Simpleology for you guys there, recommendation for Ross that will give you right into Simpleology 101. While everything is decentralized, it also means that we have access to more information, and that more information can be overwhelming. Now, Codename Neuro answers this problem in yet another way. To give you guys another little teaser there, just enjoying teasing you guys about that project that's coming out. And there's no affiliate program related to that. It's just a very, very low cost thing that you guys will see. Mark Ham says, thanks, Mark. I feel better since I like my notes to fit into a linear hierarchy, easier to tackle. Yeah, Marge, that is how I am as well. My brain seems to function better that way. I like to do that. Michael Penn Smith says, Simpleology is a very practical program, cuts through lots of your procrastination routines if you do it. Michael, you're absolutely correct. If you do it. And we sort of stipulate that here at my company. Everybody starts their day with it, something that everyone does, and we found that it radically boosts everybody's productivity. Let's see here. Since a lot of us are new or intermediate marketers, what do you think we should be focusing on or learning? James, what I would say is what you really need to be focusing on is finding something that you enjoy communicating to people about first. Because that is going to break through a lot of the technological barriers. I could say, hey, learn this one technology or another, but that may be obsolete in a very short period of time. The internet is evolving so quickly right now, which is wonderful. I absolutely love that. But the one thing that's constant is that you can develop yourself as a brand, an individual as a brand, and that is a powerful asset that you can have, that you can carry along with you no matter what you do. And the passion that you have for a particular topic is going to come through the way you communicate as well. And as you notice, I'm talking less and less about old school internet marketing and more about things that are more passionate to me. This drives me through my day and my business. There are very specific things that I want to do technologically that are extremely important to me. That motivates me to get through my day and to learn the technologies and to leverage the technologies that are going to have certain impacts. So that's what I would say to you now. Now that may not be the answer that you're looking for, but rather than teach you individual tactics, what I would like to do is teach you how to think conceptually in that way so that you can have a larger way of running your business life that is more likely to render a result no matter what tactical thing you do. I hope that answers your question. Thank you, Daniel, for saying that. Peter Banks says, the constant is my ever-reducing brain cells. Peter, is that true? Is that true, right? It is possible that we're losing more brain cells as we age, but we're also starting to find now, Peter, that the brain is far more elastic than we ever realized before. So neuroscientists talk about brain plasticity and elasticity, which has a very, very relevant connection to what we're doing with Codename Neuro, by the way. the plasticity of the brain is the part that's unchangeable. The elasticity of the brain is the part that is changeable. And we're starting to discover that the brain is far more elastic than we ever realized, and that people now are recovering from strokes through certain types of therapies. They're able to use different parts of the brain to take over areas that were destroyed with a stroke. Now, my mother had a stroke many years ago before she passed away, and she lived the last 20 years of her life debilitated as a result of that. Throughout her whole life, the doctors all believed in the plasticity of her brain, in that she was not able to overcome those limitations that the stroke had created. Unfortunately, very soon after she died, people started to believe otherwise, and if they had known this when she was alive, she could still be alive today. Very possibly. Okay, so Peter, you have a limiting belief there that may or may not be true. Okay, so again, we're discovering that the brain is improvable, is elastic. So don't think about those brain cells that you're losing. Think more about how you can improve that brain as you get older. And you can do this through fitness, you can do it through diet, and you can do it through a few other things as well. And that's all I want to say about that. Lon Naylor says, drinking kills brain cells, but only the weak ones. Oh, that's fantastic. That was my guiding principle when I was a young man in the Army, Lon. But I don't drink as much anymore. Only very rarely now. I certainly try to live a far healthier life now. Anyway, say what you will about that, but you want to stack the deck in your favor as much as possible. But that was hilarious. Kevin Riley, hey Kevin, says we use so little of our brain that there is much room for improvement. Exactly. Marge says all things in moderation. Hey, a little red wine might help, and a little dark chocolate. Yeah, maybe. That's what some people are saying, right? That's the theory. Morning back at you, Kevin. Kevin's a cool guy, an American guy who lives in Japan and has been messing around on the internet for a long time, like me and some of the old timers on this webcast, like Joel and Alan. Great to have you guys, all you guys. Ross says he spoke. Okay, you guys already know who he is, and I think Alan and Joel probably did too. Very cool. Wellness coach says the dark chocolate needs to be without the sugar and the fat. Hey, that's right. With someone with a name like Wellness Coach, you probably know more about it than I, but I don't know of anybody that knows anything about fitness right now that is telling people that it's healthy to eat refined sugar. In fact, there could be even a neurotoxin eating refined sugar. Again, Wellness Coach could probably go on a rant on that all day. Lee Collins, hey Lee, how are you, man? I met Lee in Kuala Lumpur, very cool guy, a few weeks ago. Mind over matter. Yeah, how much control does the mind have over matter? We just don't know. But we're discovering that it has more and more control over matter every single day. I lost the screen there for a minute. Okay, there we go. Just a screensaver. Judy Jenkins just did 2 blog posts on sugar and fat. Hey Judy, can you give us a URL for that so guys can check that out? Darwin says, learn more from Kevin in the last 6 weeks than I had in the past 6 months. Yeah, Kevin knows a lot of good stuff. Wayne says, beware refined sugar, tank up on glyconutrients. Totally. Eat more raw vegetables, guys. It has huge effects on your health in many ways. You want more testosterone. You want to feel better. You want to be healthier. You want to slow down aging. Eat raw vegetables, especially green leafy vegetables. Fantastic health benefits of that. And those green powders that are very popular now are a very quick and convenient way of getting some of the benefits of that. I know we're getting kind of off internet marketing here, but guys, this is why I like to do question and answer. I'm allowing you guys to direct where I go with this. So you guys tell me what you want to know and what you want to talk about. Wow, Steve C says he drinks a liter of wheatgrass every day. it might take you a whole day to squeeze a liter of wheatgrass. That's a lot of wheatgrass, man. It probably makes you very, 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 very healthy. Broccoli, blueberries, colorful foods. Yeah, totally. Kevin says, maybe off IM, but being healthy keeps one energized for doing your IM. Kevin, you're totally right, and this is why a lot of what we do at Simpleology there is helping people learn how to manage their day better and make themselves more effective by changing their relationship with their actions and time, and getting them to walk a more linear path towards the things that they want. And also with Simpleology 103, changing their lifestyle a little bit so that they can have more energy. And as you can see from Ross, that's such a great story, man. He did a lot of the stuff that we talk about there and got some great results. So I hope you guys can get that as well. I drink alkaline water every day. Hey, Leanne, yeah, I've heard about that. It's interesting. There's some people who say that some of the waters that we can have that are structured might have a more alkalizing effect on the body. I haven't done enough study about that to find out. Wayne, you asked so many good questions, but I'm going to try to answer another question here. Martina says, in integration marketing level 2 or 3, you spoke about A/B split testing, but you don't mention any software that you're using. Maybe you can provide some variation of software here. What other software do you recommend using? Well, there's a really, really good one that's very easy for you to use for split testing called AdTrax with a Z. I'll type that out here on the chat for you guys. That's AdTrackz.com. That's not the most sophisticated ad tracking software in the world, but it's one of the easiest to manage. Yeah, Google Analytics is also free and very immediately usable. From my personal experience, I wasn't getting very reliable results from Google Analytics. I was comparing what I was getting there with what I had on my logs, and they weren't exactly jiving up. So I would very much like to use Google Analytics, but my own personal experience was that it wasn't reliable enough. Google Web Optimizer, yeah, that's another really, really cool thing. They're using some more of that multivariate type testing there that will give you some very interesting results. Martinez says, I got my own software to track. Martinez, hey, plug it. What is it? Tell everybody out there. Kathleen says, how can I become an affiliate for Simpleology? Well, if you go to simpleology.com and you go to the help desk, there is a actually, you know what, go Ross, if you can give that link again for Simpleology. Click on Ross's link for Simpleology, and you can then go to the support page, and there is a explanation there for how to go in and fill out an application. We don't have an affiliate program as such. It's generally an invitation only thing, but we do allow people to fill out applications because we like to control the relationships that we have. I know that if we let everyone just kind of randomly come in, that it becomes sort of like an affiliate type thing, and we want more focus to be on the product, and we only want to work with people that we like. So being on this call with Ross probably means that you're pretty cool, because I know Ross surrounds himself with pretty cool people. So there you go. There's that. Let's see. Martinez, that's hilarious, man. Oh, I actually do. I do like Ross, man. Ross is a very, very cool guy. He always makes me feel good, and that's kind of my judge of whether or not I want to be around people. If they make me feel good, I want to be in club, like another level beyond Simpleology. It's an add-on to what you're doing with Simpleology. I mean, cumulative improvements to change your life because we put research into those changes each week, and it's really, really perfect way, or the best way in the world, but we know if we follow this, we're making small gradual improvements, and we can take it gives you. And yeah, there you go. There's my elevator pitch on that. ECS says, I like software called RAP, blogged about it there. Peter, that was relevant because they were asking about ad tracking software. So Dave was getting a clever plug in there, but it was relevant. It was relevant. So, but thank you, Peter, for trying to keep everyone in line. That's very cool. Yes, Dave says it was about split testing. Next question, guys. Sonia says, is there Simpleology software for iPhones? Not yet, but in the works. And there's a lot of other really cool stuff that I want to show you guys. So much cool stuff that we have to show you. I'm very, very excited about. Let's see, when will it be certification program, integration marketing program? Martinez, we have the level 1 certification there, and the level 2 and level 3 certification programs are going to be released very soon. In development right now are the appropriate tests to make sure that you understand that information enough. So you will be seeing the level 2 and level 3 certification coming out very, very soon. Okay, next question, guys. You're very welcome, Martinez. And it sounds like Martinez is doing the level 1 certification already. That's a very cool program we've got going on there. Daniel says, I'm not sure I understand integration marketing. Daniel, well, here's the thing. First of all, you can read the book, and if Ross wants to give a link there, there is a book that I wrote that is going to be coming out next May through my publisher, Wiley. And you can download the book in advance of the publishing now. And that explains the whole concept to you, and we have some videos there that help you understand the concept as well. And then we have the different levels of training that you can get. But integration marketing is a phrase that I coined about 7 years ago or so. And it's all about the integration of one marketing process into another, and there are several different types of it. You've got internal and external, and it's a way for you to acquire new customers and to get more money from those customers that are coming in. And basically it's a way to see marketing opportunities in your business that don't cost you any money and that give you a very reliable method of growing your business and improving your business. And this is a way that small businesses can become big businesses, and that big businesses can become empires. And I've seen this myself. I mean, I had a small business that became a very big business as a result of that. And I've seen big businesses that became empires. For example, Coca-Cola and McDonald's and Microsoft, that all use integration marketing tactics to grow themselves. And there's a lot more that can be said about that. So Daniel says, okay, I understand this. There's a lot more to be said, Daniel, and I really want you to read the book, because there is a numerical predictive mathematical system, which sounds scary and complicated, but it's not, that will allow you to better use this, and will open your mind up to a whole bunch of different possibilities, and will tell you some stories to help you understand that as well. And let me just point out one interesting thing in terms of external integration marketing. Microsoft didn't have to go out and acquire new customers. The Windows operating system was installed, pre-installed on computers that other companies were selling. Now think about that, guys. Microsoft didn't have to pay money to acquire those customers. As those other companies that were selling computers were growing and were spending money on growth, Microsoft was growing as a result of that. Okay, and that in my mind is the single most important distinguishing factor in what made Microsoft so outrageously successful. Okay, so think about that. That is one of the key stories of integration marketing that will sort of stimulate your thinking about different ways to grow your business that go a little bit beyond what people usually think of when they think of growing a business. So check that out. I hope you find that really useful. It's certainly something that has been a wonderful guiding principle in my businesses over the years, and in a lot of people that I've worked with and helped as well. Mark, what was your first success online? Michael Savoy says ROI bot. Actually, there was a lot of stuff I did way before ROI bot. My company was the first to publish ebooks on the internet many years ago. That was probably my first really radical success when we popularized the concept of ebooks and had an ebook that was downloaded over 1 million times. by 1998. That was probably the first super radical success that we had, and I had a lot of other medium-sized successes before that, back in the early days of the net, which were great. Yeah, ESOP was the early company I was working with there. Let's see. Teresa says, Mark, may I ask, please, how do you find time to read all the books behind you, and how do you remember everything you learn? It absolutely has to be tons of information. I'm truly amazed and impressed. Well, thank you. Well, I don't read every single thing. Okay, so look, you have to manage your relationship with information. The relationship that you have with a book does not have to be one of full in-depth reading. You can go into some books and speed read them, and there are a lot of different really valid speed reading, or as Mark Strickland says, scan reading methodologies that will help you get a gist of a book. Now, every book that I get, I do some kind of speed reading on it very, very quickly so that I can get as much information as I can, and then decide whether or not I want to dip into that book even more. Okay, so a really quick method that you can use, and Matthew's asking about accelerated learning. Well, here's an accelerated learning methodology that I use. I simply look at the outside of the book. I look at the table of contents to get a general grasp of what the book is about. I try to grasp that first. And then I go in and I do quick reading of the major chapter headings and of the subheadings within the chapter. And then I will go back and I'll read the first line of every paragraph. And that will give me a really good grasp of what the book is all about. And then I'll go back in and I'll dip into areas. I'll go, ooh, I really wanted to learn about that one thing that he said, and I'll go in and zoom in on that. Now, here's the thing. One of the key things that you need to understand about the way the human brain works is that you tend to retain things that you are more interested in. So by going back and choosing the things that I'm more interested in and focusing on those, my brain is in a more highly attuned state to absorb the information that I'm interacting with. So if you're exposing yourself all day to stuff that doesn't excite you and doesn't get you fired up, you're not going to remember a bit of it. Okay, it's going to be boring. So don't study stuff you find boring. Okay, study stuff that's extremely important to you, that's relevant to you, that you're fired up to learn in that moment, and that will radically improve the rate at which you retain information. And a lot of people, call me a walking encyclopedia. I don't know if I have any particular ability to absorb information that's better than the average person. I just know that I have followed my interest rather intensely, and that perhaps is the secret to that. I hope that that answers your question. Well, actually, Wayne, it's not really photo reading that I do. The photo reading thing, yeah, I can't say I endorse that one way or the other. I actually know the guys behind that, and they're wonderful people, but I haven't tested photo reading per se enough to say that that's what I endorse, or that that's what I use. I use more of a scanning method, which, it's possible that photo reading uses that partially as well. What I was describing there is probably the foundation to a lot of different speed reading methodologies, like Evelyn Wood, as Dan Foley just pointed out, I believe uses that. Howard Berg, who is the Guinness World Record book recognized fastest reader in the world, a very good friend of mine and a very nice guy. He uses techniques like that as well. And Wayne, I don't mean to discount what you're recommending there. I just I just want to make it clear that that's not what I'm recommending, because I don't always use that or even really know enough about photo reading to know whether or not it works. R&D, rob and duplicate. Interesting. Okay, let's see. Next question here. That is the first thing I ever heard about you. Daniel, I'm not sure about what you're referring to there. I can't remember what that was, so I'm not sure. Okay, guys, let's see. Chris says, what kind of music do you like? Do you play any instruments? Well, yeah, I love all kinds of music. And I play guitar, and I sing, and I used to program keyboards and synthesizers and stuff like that. I am not as active in that right now as I would like to be. I just haven't had the time to do it. Although I would love to bring that back into my life because I absolutely love music. And again, I love all types of music. I used to say all kinds of music except country. But after watching Trace Adkins on The Celebrity Apprentice, I'm now a super fan of Trace Adkins, who's to me was just such an amazing, wonderful, warm, genuine guy. So I mean, I really love all music. It just has to be genuine and real. There's some music that just isn't coming from someone's heart, and that's music that I don't like. If it's a genuine expression of what someone's feeling, I probably like that more. Bob the Teacher, yeah, I agree. Trace Adkins should have won. I think that the statement that made by saying that Pierce was the winner is the wrong message to be putting out to business owners in this day and age. And whether or not Pierce made more money in the short term, to me it doesn't matter because Trace would have been a better face and would have had a better long-term cumulative effect and would have made more people trust and like him, I think, and probably would have been a good PR move for Donald Trump as well. But not to criticize him. That's just my opinion, and I mean that's the direction I'm heading in, which is a little bit different from that. Hey, let's all be dog eat dog, and that's the way the world is, and it's okay to be ruthless like that. I don't like where that pushes humanity personally. I don't want to live in that world where everyone is vicious. I don't think that's a very happy place to be in, and we can make this world the place that we want to be in, can't we? Let's see. Teresa, thank you. I appreciate that. Very, very kind words. Do I like mixed music as well? Sometimes, if it's a good mix. Some of the mixes are really bad, but some are great, and the ones that are great, like, Moby and the hip-hop guys, in a sense, are mixed artists, right? I mean, the Beastie Boys sort of pioneered this really cool thing. Like, if you go back to the Paul's Boutique album, people know the Beastie Boys only for the kind of shallow stuff that they did, but they were real, genuine musical pioneers. If you listen to Paul's Boutique, they were the first ones to take jazz and all this other stuff and mix it in to hip hop and turn hip hop into some really amazing stuff. So yeah, I think that mix is a genuine art form if it's done properly. And if you guys don't know about the full breadth of what the Beastie Boys have done, if you only know like Fight for Your Right to your party and all that, then you're not really getting the full wonder of the Beastie Boys. Lee Collins says, back to Mind Over Matter. Have you had a chance to listen to Ice-T yet? That's his rap, deep meaning in that one. Yeah, dude, Ice-T is pretty amazing, man. He's a deep thinker, and there's some pretty cool stuff. Judy Jenkins says, blues music is from the heart. You're totally right, and I used to love blues, but I try not to play it as much anymore because I don't want to make myself feel blue all the time, I mean, I would like to be getting involved in music that makes people feel more positive things. Blues can kind of accentuate that, and you're training your nervous system to feel more blue all the time. Even as much as I love to listen to that, I was driving today to a business meeting I had, and I was hearing that Fuji's remix of "Killing Me Softly," and man, what a depressing song that is, especially the original version. And I thought, this is beautiful music in a sense, but I do not want to be training myself to feel this emotion because it's a desperate, terrible emotion that's expressed in that thing. ECS Dave said, Alison Krauss. Yeah, man, some of that bluegrass is just cool, right? Bluegrass is an amazing, amazing genre. Teresa says, I have a great question. Have you listened to Manifestation Meditation by Justin Blake, and do you think it can be effective in getting the right mindset on track? No, I haven't. But hey, that whole law of attraction manifestation thing, I mean, I don't know whether or not you genuinely attract things to yourself. But one thing I can say is that believing in the law of attraction can program your mind to think that certain things are possible that you may not think are possible, and to feel positive about things. And from that perspective, yeah, I'm all for that kind of thing. I mean, Justin is a really good friend of mine, great guy, and Joe Vitale, who was, in The Secret, is one of my absolute best friends in the world, and he and I don't necessarily agree with the way all that works, but we certainly agree that focusing on the things that you want and in believing that things are possible has a positive effect on your life, no matter how that works. I mean, is it just that you're programming your brain, or is it that you're attracting these things to you? Joe believes that you're genuinely attracting things to you. I don't know whether or not that's true, but I know that the reticular activation system in the brain can be trained to be aware of certain things, and if you believe that's law of attraction or whatever, call it what you will, but when you buy a car, you become more aware of that car. You see that car all over the place. So if you focus your mind on the things that you want, you're going to begin seeing more possibilities for making that become a reality. No question about that. And, again, whatever reason you think that's true, whether it's a neuroscientific explanation or a magical explanation or whatever, it's something that you can experience in your own life. So, I have a concept that I play with called utilitarian model flexibility, which means that, there is no one correct view of the world, but it's whether or not one view of the world has more or less utility and can help your life more or less. So, hey, doing that stuff has a definite positive effect. Just don't believe that you can sit on your butt and make it happen. So even Joe Vitale, who is one of the biggest proponents of that, he was the voice in The Secret that said, hey, the universe is going to give you inspiration, and you've got to act on that. That's your job, right? So I'll give you another analogy. If I'm in a room and the room is dark, and I'm sitting in a chair, and I sit there and I manifest, the idea of the lights coming on. Sooner or later, someone may come in and flip the light switch on. May or may not. I don't know, right? It's funny. You can say, well, if it doesn't happen, you didn't manifest right. I mean, how can you measure that? You can't. It's an unprovable statement. But one thing I know for a fact is this. I can think about that and go, oh, I need some light, and then get up off my butt and flip the switch. I know that works, right? So, maybe, manifesting or focusing your brain on something opens your mind to the possibility of where those switches are, but go out there and take responsibility and flip that switch on your own. That's what we know for sure works, right? So I hope that gives you guys some interesting thoughts on that. And I don't mean to discount any of that stuff either. I think there's some really cool positive stuff coming out of there. Yeah, you guys all have some great comments on that, Lee Collins says, you attract what you believe through your relevant actions pursuant to that belief. Yeah, that's a really great explanation of it, and I'm sure Joe would probably, agree with that as well. Faith without works is dead. Yeah, that's a great quote. I love that one, and we use that one in Simpleology 101 too. Yeah, you must see it, believe it, speak it, and act on it. Yeah, I believe so as well. But at least, we know for a fact that doing that is more likely to render a positive result. Michael says, how much crap do you have to drop into a glass of water before you won't drink it anymore? That's wow, that's hilarious, man. That's hilarious. That's Wow, you're a Zen master, dude. That's pretty good. Yep, it's very true. I mean, if you poison your mind with negative thoughts, man, I mean, there's no question it's going to ruin your life, man. It's going to ruin your life. So don't let people poison your mind. It's you've got to be sort of in control of your own self-esteem and your own perception of the world. And there are competing voices and influences out there that will push you in one direction or another. So, yeah. All right, here we go, guys. More questions. Don't let anyone rain on your parade. Yep, exactly. Exactly. Let's see. Praying for change. Yeah, check it out, I mean, why not? But just don't, let prayer be your only thing you do. Kevin Riley says, unfortunately, I see people every day who allow those negative thoughts to beat them down. It's why I refuse to accept recession or anything else negative. Totally, dude. Totally. Because look, let me tell you something about this concept of recession, right? First of all, it's a completely arbitrary word, recession. Okay, so is there some grand economic god in the sky that said a recession is something that follows this definition? No, it's a construct made by the human mind. It's a concept that economists came up with to describe something that may or may not be important, right? And really what it is, it's that you have negative growth 3 quarters in a row, right? Well, guess what? By the time someone comes out and says there is a recession, by definition, it's over. Okay? Think about that. Think about that, right? Yeah, Kevin, exactly. Like, did all the money disappear? No, the money's still there, And if you believe that there is some negative impact on the economy or whatever, it's going to negatively impact the actions that you take. All I can tell you is whether you're in a recession or whatever you want to call it, or even back in the Great Depression, there are people who got up off their ass, and pardon my language, and made heaps of money, even in the Great Depression. And, they didn't, allow the doom and gloom talk to change their actions. Whether or not the economy is in state A or state B, your individual personal marketing actions are going to determine how much money you make. That's it. Doesn't matter what the state of the world is. Whether the state of the world is good or bad, you can make it better or worse depending on the actions that you take and the mindset that you adopt in your life. Absolute fact. Absolute fact. I don't see any evidence out there to indicate that anything other than that is true. Okay, so try that out. Try it out for yourself and see what happens. See what happens. Don't let all the negative stuff bog you down. Start pouring into your mind positive messages. Start looking for the beauty in things. See if you can find something beautiful in every single person that you meet, or something positive about every experience that you have. Every time somebody says a negative thing to you, see if you can turn it around into a positive. Reframe it. See what happens. See what happens. Make it a scientific experiment. You don't have to believe that it's going to have any positive effect. Be a skeptical scientist and see what happens in your life when you do that. Come back and let me know. Yeah, Ross says the mega wealthy are made during so-called recessions. Totally. I mean, some of the greatest fortunes in history have been made during depressions and recessions. Clay Franklin says, I do not think the economy is affecting our purchases of the exceptional deals Ross is offering with his guests. We are positive thinkers here. That is why we hang together. Great, man. And I mean, surround yourself around people who are positive thinkers. And if anybody thinks that they have got to lessen your importance or lower your self-esteem or poke a hole in your dreams to be successful, that's old school thinking, guys. It's not going to work in the future, or so I'm predicting. And I mean, that's what I kind of see happening in the world. There are some people who believe kick them in the head repeatedly. Yeah, I don't know if I'd recommend the kicking in the head part. I think Ross is kidding, of course. Um, but well, mentally kick them in the head. If somebody kicks you down, um, you know, imagine them, being washed away out of your life. Even people who may appear to be on the surface positive may discount the importance of what you're doing, or make you feel less confident or less good about yourself, or try to make you seem less important, or less confident, or whatever. Some people believe that that's what you have to do to be successful, and I think that's a very scarcity-minded, small way of seeing the world. The movie Validation is wonderful. I haven't seen it. Sounds like a great movie. I'll check it out. Marketing tipster, Mark Riddle. It's a great moniker. The movie Validation sounds great. I'd love to see it. Can always use a little validation, always, no matter how successful you are. Hell, there are times when I'm feeling bad about myself, and I laugh sometimes. I think, oh, you've accomplished this or that, and then I doubt myself sometimes. We all do. We all do. It's online at 16 minutes. Hey, Mark, can you put up a link to that? Besides me, who are some visionaries we should listen to? Thank you for calling me a visionary, first of all. The guys that you've got here, Ross Goldberg and, Kevin Riley and Alan Bechtold. These are all some really cool visionary thinkers. I would like to say that Ray Kurzweil is someone you should definitely check out and follow. He's got some wonderful forward-thinking moves that he's making in the world right now, making a huge impact. Malcolm Gladwell is certainly a really cool, interesting guy to follow and listen to. One thing I'll say is get outside of the internet marketing world. Okay, there's a lot bigger world besides that, and there's some really cool guys in there. But there's a much bigger world too, and the internet is a way that will help you leverage something that you're really passionate about, and go find some things that you're passionate about, and use the internet as a leverage tool to get that stuff out there. Kevin says, I don't know if I'm visionary, Mark, just eccentric. Right on, man. I think I'm a little eccentric too, and that's okay. Call me what you will. I'm happy. I'm happy. Okay, so Daniel says, the internet was the first place I ever found people other than those with employee mentality. It opened my eyes. Yeah, totally, man. There are a lot of people out there who are kind of coming together. Peter, good recommendations there. Okay, ECS Dave, take care, dude. Thanks for coming to hang out. Ross says, I'm the most unemployable person I know. I don't know, man. I would probably vie for that that ranking. I certainly, I worked really hard, when I was in the Army, and I tried to be the best follower I could. But I think I'm too volatile and too much of a wild card to be an employee. But hey, not that being an employee is wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. I got some fantastic people in my life who were members of my team, and God bless them. I wouldn't be anywhere where I am without them. Think outside the box can never be placed in a cubicle. Well, I don't know. There's a lot of thinking you can do within the scope of something that you're doing that's part of a big picture as well. I think what the problem is, Michael, is that a lot of guys get involved in jobs that they don't believe in. If you don't believe in what your company is doing, and you don't believe in what you're doing, and you're not passionate about that, then your creativity is going to be shut down. But I think you could be in a cubicle, working with a company that's doing some stuff that gets you fired up, and that has some really innovative things for you to do, and you can be totally innovative and creative within that scope. I met a guy a couple weeks ago who works at a marketing company, who is one of the freshest, most interesting thinkers I've ever met, and he's an employee, and he just loves his job, so Let's not poo-poo jobs, because remember, you guys are entrepreneurs. Remember that you're only going to grow with the help of other people in your company. Karina says, I'm employable. Well, submit an application. Karina, hey, maybe I've got some work for you. Chris says, would you say you stay in that Zen state of mind, not knowing the difference between work and play pretty constantly? I would like to be like that. I don't know if I am. I mean, certainly there are some times when I believe that what I'm doing is drudgery, and the quality of what I'm doing is probably way, way lower. I certainly aspire to that as much as I can, and the more I can get into that frame of mind, Chris, I think the more productive I am, and probably the higher quality work I do as well. So great question. Yeah, Clay Franklin says, I actually learned to think outside the box at Hewlett-Packard in the 90s. Yeah, so there are a lot of companies that are doing some innovative stuff. And remember, guys, employees at Xerox were the guys who designed the GUI and the mouse. Okay, so it wasn't Apple. Apple got that technology because the executives at Xerox were not forward thinking enough to be able to see that was a world-changing invention. Those guys were employees at a lab, So sometimes employees do great stuff. Yeah, Vinalda says, we need employees also. Just think of all those services you use in your life that take employees to make it happen. Yeah. And look, guys, here's something to just remember, treat those people with respect. Dan Foley, yes, exactly. That's where it was developed at the Palo Alto Research Center Park. From Xerox. Treat the people that you're working with with respect. Don't look down on them because they're employees. Everybody in this world has got different talents and different things that they want to do. What's, better or worse? Who are we to judge what that is? What is better? What is worse? Those are human judgments, and because they're human judgments, they're limited in their scope, and based on limited information that we have. So, is there some goodness or worseness, in this world that we can measure? Not really. There's only, isness and, utility. There are things that we want to do and things that we want to avoid, things that give us pleasure and things that give us pain. Good and bad, good and evil. What are those things, I don't know. Teresa says, some people are employable and some people have their own ideas which turn them into the world of entrepreneurs. Totally. And some people have idiosyncratic traits that make them more or less employable or more or less entrepreneurial. And it's not like one or the other is better or worse. They all serve interesting functions in the world. If anyone else besides Mark wants to hire me, follow me at Twitter. Hey, Karina, follow me at Twitter, and I'd love to chat with you. I don't know what you do, but you're here, so might be interesting. Peter says, I think employers make the mistake of trapping employees in very, very tiny boxes. They lose out a lot of skills and creativity. Peter, exactly. Exactly, and if somebody wants to grow within the framework of what you're doing in the company and express themselves within that framework, great, let it happen. Kevin Riley says, the great thing is that all people are different. It'd be a pretty boring world if we all thought the same. Totally, I wouldn't want to be around people the same. Marge says she's following me on Twitter. Thank you. I'll give everybody my Twitter. I just started playing with Twitter a couple weeks ago. So fun, Twitter. I'm typing very slowly here on this Mac keyboard. There we go. I believe a good boss is a good leader who knows how to leverage his team's member strength. Totally, definitely, and also who treats those people with respect as well. Look, there's no reason to treat humans without respect and to belittle them or diminish them in any way. Even though some people are hell bent on doing that. Been a member for months. I found you by accident. Yeah, you're totally right, Ross. I signed up a few months ago, but didn't start getting active until about a few weeks ago. I really got active, I guess, about a month ago, and I started Twittering more often. and growing the member base on there. It's really fun. I'm having a really good time with it. Daniel says, my purpose is to find entrepreneurs at heart stuck in jobs. I do realize employment is a vital part of business. It's just that there are some that don't belong there. Yeah. Hey, and if that's not you, and if you're not being happy, then don't be an employee. If you're going to be more happy as an entrepreneur, be an entrepreneur. It's all good. Ross Kohlberg says, even a crackhead deserves a certain level of respect. That's right, man. You never know who someone will become in the future, and negative actions bring negative consequences. Karma can be a bitch. Man, every single one of us as human beings have the capability of doing great good and great evil, whatever good and evil is, and we can positively affect people and negatively affect people as well. And we can also express great weakness and great strength. And we will express the extremes of all those things throughout our lives. So, to me, it's all about, judgment. If you see a crackhead on the street, you're going to look down on that person. Hey, there but for the grace of God go I, right? I grew up in a very unfortunate circumstances when I was young, and there were times in my life where I allowed my position that I was able to attain through the sweat of my brow to attain, and then I started to look down at people, and then I realized, wait a minute, what are you doing? You've been there. And how do you know what that person went through? Maybe I've had certain influences in my life that allowed me to be more fortunate, so I just try not to judge people as much anymore. Who knows why somebody is the way they are. The only thing you could do is do your best to help them without making them dependent on you. I think everybody's got to go out there and take responsibility for their own lives. That's the one thing that is a constant, it seems. Ross says, Mark, we have similar backgrounds from the Army to negative childhoods. Yeah, I'd love to get you on the phone sometime, Ross, and we'll talk about that. But you know what? Hey, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about where we're going, and what we can do to help people. That's what I want to focus on now. I used to think a lot about, dwell on, negative things that happened in my life, and that colored my perception of reality quite a bit. So I try not to do that as much as possible anymore. Hey, Ross, you're totally right, man. And it's cool to be able to relate to someone who has gone through that. Definitely. You probably shouldn't forget what's gone on there. Because that's the reality. We don't want to deny reality, right? We just want to choose to focus on the things that are good, and create more of that. Yeah, it's great, man. Hey guys, I've only got a few more minutes here. It's 1:35 p.m. in New Zealand, and I've got to go have my ass kicked by my swim coach here, and at 2 o'clock, and so I got to leave at about 1:45. So that gives us about 10 minutes. So any final questions you guys want to have? Man, this time has just flown by. You guys are an awesome group. Would there be a possibility to join your team to work on your projects for some time, maybe outsource or something? Yeah, totally, Martinez. Contact the help desk at Simpleology and let me know. Ross gave that link there earlier. Let me know what you can do. Absolutely, and there may be some other ways here. I don't want to say too much about that because there's some stuff that we're going to be communicating here pretty soon. That's very different, and man, I'm so excited. I wish I could tell you guys about it right now, but yeah, there you go. Karina says New Zealand does not have snakes. Yeah, there are a lot of interesting things. We've got no poisonous insects. I think we've only got one Very mildly poisonous spider here, no poisonous plants, no poisonous snakes. And there's some theories about why that has happened, but the actual geology of New Zealand is unique in that a lot of the plant and animal life that developed in other parts of the world simply didn't come here. So it may be the purest land on the planet. And that's one of the many reasons why I absolutely love it here, man. I'm separated from a lot of my great friends in the United States, but through the internet we can all stay connected. I mean, the world's just getting smaller, and who knows? Maybe travel technology will allow us to travel a little more quickly as well in the very, very near future. Daniel says, Mark, you wrote the book I tried to mention to you. The book was said to be the predecessor to your Simpleology, the world's tiled. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I've written so many things I don't remember. I wish I could find it. But if it was a predecessor to Simpleology, well, then Simpleology would be the one. Thank you, you guys, for all those really kind words. Artie says, where do I point my 13-year-old son to get him interested in something besides MySpace? Well, Artie, I got something for you there. This kid in Great Britain, really, really smart kid. I don't know if he's on here today, but David Wilkinson, very, very smart young man who I believe is about 13 or 14. He is just absolutely astounding, and maybe you can introduce him to your son, and see if they can talk about something. Just don't. What I would avoid if I were you is pushing him in one direction because of where you think he should be, right? Don't say, don't do this. I'm kind of contradicting myself here. Rather than that, what I would say, what I think might be a more useful way of inspiring your kid is to expose him to things that are fascinating. Stoke a passion inside of him in something beyond that. Start to show him cool stuff. Something that you find that's cool, show it to him. And maybe it can't be shown by you because sometimes it's really hard for us to see our parents as cool, So let somebody else be the voice of cool that can expose that to them and just kind of take solace in the fact that you influenced that. It's a little bit of sneaky persuasion you can use on your son there, but there's a something for you to think about. Artie, I hope that pushes you in the right direction. Hey, David Wilkinson is speaking on December 14th here in this forum that Ross is so wonderfully put together. So maybe you can have your son check him out. I think that would be really cool. Thank you guys for all these really kind words. You guys are awesome, making me feel happy. I'm going to power through my my swim today from all the positive energy you guys are giving me. All right, guys, I got about 5 more minutes here before I got to bolt. Difference between avoiding negative thinking and avoiding facing reality from the thrival culture. Sonia, yeah, sure. Just don't tell yourself that something didn't happen. Although maybe sometimes scrambling your brain a bit and the experience that you have with that is a useful thing. I mean, there are a lot of techniques that psychologists will use to kind of scramble your brain about something that you have experienced to lessen the conscious impact that has on you. Just don't lie to yourself. But you can at the same time, and again, there's no hard and fast rules here. I'm certainly, not the one who has the final answer on anything, and I don't think any of us are. But don't lie to yourself, but don't be afraid to scramble your perception of the past in a positive way. Like if somebody that you don't like made you feel bad, you can do things like imagine them in very silly circumstances to lessen the prominence that they play in your brain. Next is just focus consciously in the moment on the positive things, and you're going to start rebuilding a more positive history. You're going to be sending messages to your mind about positive things and making yourself feel good and improving yourself. Again, that's what Kaizen Club is all about. It's kind of shifting your conscious attention on things that build up your self-esteem. That's one of the things that we do there. So I hope that gives you a good answer there. Negative commands. I wouldn't give yourself, I wouldn't say, personally, I wouldn't say don't do this. I would focus instead on doing a positive thing. Like instead of saying don't eat unhealthy foods, because that makes you think about unhealthy foods all the time, I would focus on eating healthy foods. But beyond that, don't think about should having to do something. Think instead about enjoying it. Like focus on the beauty of raw vegetables, right? I mean, you can train yourself to really love certain foods. Your preference of food that you eat is a matter of training, right? You've trained yourself to revere certain packaged foods. Notice how we revere like chocolate and candy bars and potato chips and all these things. You think advertising might have a little something to do with that? A little bit. So that's training that's going on in your mind. You could train yourself to like other stuff, so train yourself to love the taste of raw vegetables. I catch myself going, oh man, I gotta eat this, because it's healthy, and I go, wait a minute, focus on what's good about that. And then over time, I like it more and more. Chris, thank you for saying that. You guys are really making me feel good today. I've been a vegetarian since I was 7 and still won't do spinach. Well, you've probably got a very negative training in your mind about spinach. Try blending some spinach in a blender with some ice water and some protein powder and some berries. Tell me if you don't like spinach. You'll probably like it, like in that context. Give it a shot. Okay, Wayne has been wanting to ask this question. Got like 1 minute left. How do you see NLP and similar tools fitting in with marketing and self-development? Well, I would just say, hey, that's just one tool among many. There are many different schools of thought about influence and persuasion and marketing. None of them is more right than another. So, there are people who are amazingly wonderful marketers without studying any of that stuff at all. There are just different schools of thought and different ways of looking at the same thing, and it's all about what is going to motivate someone else to do what it is that you want them to do. And, be that one form of persuasion or one school of thought about marketing or another, almost doesn't matter, but again, that's a useful set of information in that particular school of thought, and there are a lot of others too. Yeah, Ross, totally right on. Exactly. Hey guys, it's 1:45 here. Unfortunately, I do have to bolt onto my swim, and wish me some strength, because my trainer is going to kick my ass. But I got to think positively about that, right? I got to think about how much I enjoy the actual experience of exercising my body and feeling good, and that's what I got to focus on here, rather than being like, oh man, I'm just gonna be really hard. I can't think about that. I got to think about how good I'm gonna feel and what parts of it I'm gonna enjoy, and that means I'll do more of that. All right, guys. Thank you very much for all these kind words and for the great questions. This is a fantastic group. And Ross, cheers to you for putting this on and putting together such a great group of people. So that's it, guys. Peace, and hope to see you all soon.
Now, how cool was that? I don't know about you guys, but I had a freaking blast. Stop leaving the room. I've got a couple of quick announcements, and I'm going to let you guys go hang for an hour and 15 minutes, so I'm going to make these as quick as humanly possible. So, okay, number one, any of the continuity-based programs that you have either purchased through me in the past and are still a member of, or are purchasing from me now, my monthly continuity-based program, you'll be able to get it for a whopping $10. It's going to be a monthly DVD, and there is not a subscription. You'll be able to buy each DVD as you like for $10 plus shipping. Nice and simple. So that goes with any continuity-based program. That goes with Mark's program, Traffic Geyser, Blog i360, Yonex program. That goes for any continuity-based. Monthly home tech, absolutely it does count. Yes. So any of it, any monthly based program automatically qualifies you. Sure, Coach. The program is going to be, I don't know if Carrie's program is monthly, but if you purchased it through me, it qualifies. So Kaizen, absolutely. Kaizen definitely qualifies. Guys, I'm not talking it doesn't matter who you're under. I'm still a part of that, so that's fine. Thank you, Chris. You don't have to, well, we're going to have to figure something out, and I haven't sorted that. Some of you, the affiliate programs, give me your name. Others, they don't. David's thing is not monthly, but for something that large, I'd be willing to make arrangements. I'm definitely willing. So we'll talk about it, guys. Excuse me. When this launches, email me. It's going to be a monthly DVD, internet marketing stuff, but what I'm good at. And see, the thing is that I'm good at a lot of things that I'm not an expert at. There are tricks and things like that that I've learned, but I'm not going to make a product on copywriting because I came up with this really cool thing that works. You know, some people might make that into a cheap report or whatever else. That'll be part of my monthly thing. I've also got about 100 hours worth of internet marketing video between all of my events and everything else. So absolutely, this is an update for everybody. Dan Nickerson, Joel's right-hand man, just grabbed the slot to speak Saturday night. So he will be here, Dan Nickerson. I'm going to get some details on his presentation tomorrow, so I'll let you guys know. Otherwise, I want to thank you guys because you know, Mark Joyner wouldn't have come here if I didn't attract such a wonderful audience. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you. Yeah, the schedule's been updated again. So thanks, everybody. Thanks for enjoying this. Sunday has one slot open, or one slot taken so far, so we'll see. I appreciate all of you, and I'm having an absolute blast. You guys are making this a lot of fun for me. So thank you so much. And I will be back with Kevin Nations in just over an hour. He is another one you do not want to miss. So you're more than welcome to hang out. And otherwise, I'll be in and out over the next hour or so. Got to put my little ones to bed. But I'll see you guys shortly.